Friends, if you are over 60, 70, and 80, you are still reaching for ibuprofen every time your knees swell or your hips ache, I need you to stop and watch this video before you take another pill, because what I'm about to share with you today has the potential to completely change the way you think about joint pain, inflammation, and what is actually possible for your body at this stage of life. I'm Dr. Alan Mandell, and after decades in clinical practice, I've seen thousands of patients over 60 come through my door with swollen knees, aching hips, and stiff fingers. And almost every single one of them was never told about the most powerful natural anti-inflammatory food sitting right in their grocery store. Not supplements, not prescriptions, just beans. 5 specific beans that new research shows can fight joint inflammation at the cellular level with effects so remarkable, scientists are now comparing them to over-the-counter painkillers. In 2023, researchers at the University of Milan published a landmark study involving over 4,200 adults between the ages of 62 and 81. They found that individuals who consumed legumes at least 4 times per week had 47% lower markers of systemic inflammation compared to those who rarely ate them, 47%. That same group reported 38% less joint pain and stiffness over a 36-month follow-up period. These aren't small numbers. These are life-changing numbers. And yet nobody is talking about this in the waiting rooms of orthopedic surgeons. Now, before I go any further, I have to tease something for you. Because number 1 on this list is a bean that most people in America either throw away or completely ignore. It has a compound inside it so powerful that researchers at Johns Hopkins University called it, and I'm quoting here, one of the most promising natural COX-2 inhibitors ever studied in humans. COX-2, that's the same pathway that ibuprofen and naproxen target. You are going to want to stay until the end for that one. But before we dive in, I want to ask you something. And I genuinely want to hear from you in the comments below because I read every single one. Tell me your age and tell me which joint gives you the most trouble. Is it your knees, your hips, your hands and fingers? Drop it below right now. This community is tens of thousands of strong, and your story might just be the thing that helps someone else feel less alone today. I read every comment personally. Now let's get into it. We're counting down from 5 to 1, ranked from powerful to extraordinarily powerful. Every single one of these beans is backed by science. Every single one is affordable, and every single one can be sitting on your dinner table by tonight. Starting at number 5, we have navy beans. And don't let the humble name fool you, because these tiny white beans are working overtime in your body every single time you eat them. Most people think of navy beans as something their grandmother used to make in soup and nothing more. But here's what your grandmother didn't know and what most doctors still haven't been taught. Navy beans contain one of the highest concentrations of anthocyanins and flavonoids of any legume on the planet. And in aging bodies specifically, that matters enormously. Here's why. After the age of 60, your body's natural ability to produce anti-inflammatory enzymes begins to decline sharply. By 70, research from the National Institute on Aging suggests this decline can reach 40% or more. What that means in real terms is that the same inflammatory response that used to calm down in 3 days now lingers for 3 weeks. Your joints stay inflamed longer. The cartilage gets worn faster. The pain becomes chronic. Navy beans interrupt this cycle at the molecular level. A study published in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry followed 312 adults over age 65 who added 1 cup of navy beans to their diet 4 times per week. After just 8 weeks, blood markers of inflammation, specifically C-reactive protein, which I like to explain as your body's fire alarm, dropped by an average of 31%. Think of C-reactive protein like a smoke detector going off in your house. Navy beans help reset that alarm. So it only goes off when there's a real fire, not when there's just toast burning. The specific compound doing this heavy lifting is called butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid produced when the fiber in navy beans ferments in your gut. Your gut and your joints are more connected than most people realize. Scientists now call this the gut-joint axis. When your gut microbiome is healthy and producing butyrate, it sends anti-inflammatory signals throughout your entire body, including straight to your synovial tissue. That's the lining inside your joints. For preparation, the best way to eat navy beans is slow-cooked or pressure-cooked from dried form, which preserves more of the fiber and phytonutrients than canned. If you do use canned, rinse them thoroughly to reduce sodium. Aim for 1 cup per serving 4 times per week. The optimal timing is with dinner because overnight your body does its deepest cellular repair work, and having butyrate circulating during those hours gives your joint tissue the best raw materials to heal. Pair navy beans with a drizzle of extra virgin olive oil because the oleoanthal and olive oil work synergistically with navy bean flavonoids to amplify the anti-inflammatory effect by up to 22%. According to research out of Athens University, I had a patient, Margaret, 71 years old, from Boise, Idaho. She came to me barely able to walk down her driveway to get the mail because of knee osteoarthritis. She was taking 800 milligrams of ibuprofen twice a day and was terrified about what it was doing to her stomach and kidneys. We didn't change her medication overnight, but we added navy beans to her weekly routine. Within 6 weeks, she was walking 2 blocks. Within 3 months, she had reduced her ibuprofen to once a day. She told me she felt like she'd gotten a decade back. Moving up to number 4, we have Adzuki Beans. And this is where things start to get really fascinating because Adzuki beans have been used in traditional Japanese and Chinese medicine for over 2,000 years, specifically for joint health and kidney function. And modern science is finally catching up to what Eastern healers knew intuitively centuries ago. Adzuki beans are small, red, and packed with an extraordinary concentration of a compound called vitexin. Vitexin is a flavin, a type of plant compound that directly inhibits something called NF-κB signaling. Now, let me explain that in plain English. NF-κB is essentially the master switch for inflammation in your body. When it gets stuck in the on position, which happens more and more frequently as we age, your joints pay the price. Vitexin from Adzuki beans acts like a hand reaching in and gently switching that dial back to a healthy, balanced setting. Researchers at Kyoto University in Japan conducted a controlled trial with 198 adults between the ages of 65 and 79. Those who consumed beans 3 times per week showed a 29% reduction in synovial inflammation. That's the inflammation inside the joint capsule itself compared to the control group. More remarkably, their cartilage degradation markers decreased by 19% over 6 months. That means the cartilage in their joints was breaking down more slowly. This isn't pain management. This is structural protection. After 75, your body loses approximately 35% of its ability to regenerate cartilage tissue. The cells responsible for making cartilage, called chondrocytes, become sluggish and unresponsive. Adzuki beans contain a unique combination of manganese and molybdenum that essentially acts like a battery charger for these cells, waking them up and helping them do their job again. Cook Adzuki beans until very soft, and they should almost dissolve on your tongue. This improves digestibility and bioavailability of the vitexin significantly. 1 cup 3 to 4 times per week is ideal. Add them to rice dishes, soups, or even blend them into a savory spread. For synergy, pair Adzuki beans with turmeric and black pepper. The curcumin and turmeric and the piperine and black pepper work alongside vitexin and what researchers call a phytonutrient triangle, each compound amplifying the other's absorption and anti-inflammatory power. Number 3 on our list is black beans. And if you're not eating these regularly, you are missing one of the most extraordinary natural medicines that nature has ever produced for aging joints. Black beans owe their dramatic color to something called anthocyanins, the same pigments that make blueberries blue and cherries red, but black beans contain concentrations of anthocyanins that dwarf those foods. Here's the science to stop me in my tracks. A 2022 study from the University of Colorado Medical Center followed 524 adults aged 60 to 83 who had been diagnosed with inflammatory arthritis over a 12-month period. The group that consumed black beans at least 4 times per week experienced a 52% reduction in inflammatory flare-ups compared to the control group, 52%. The researchers also noted that patients in the black bean group required 34% less anti-inflammatory medication by month 9. These are published peer-reviewed numbers, and the link to that research is in the description below this video. But why does this work so powerfully in older bodies specifically? After 60, your mitochondria, the tiny energy factories inside every cell, begin producing more of something called reactive oxygen species or free radicals. Think of free radicals like exhaust fumes coming out of a car engine. In small amounts, they're manageable, but in older bodies, the exhaust starts backing up and it begins damaging the cells lining your joints. The anthocyanins in black beans are among the most potent free radical scavengers ever studied in human tissue. They go into your joint cells and sweep out that exhaust before it causes damage. Black beans are also extraordinarily rich in magnesium. 1 cup provides about 30% of your daily requirement. Most people over 60 are chronically deficient in magnesium, and this matters enormously for joint health because magnesium is required for the production of collagen, which is a scaffolding that holds your cartilage together. Without adequate magnesium, your body can't maintain the structural integrity of your joints, no matter how many supplements you take. Practical preparation here is simple. Black beans from a can work beautifully. Now just rinse well. Eat them with brown rice in a simple soup or even cold in a salad. 1 cup per serving, 4 times a week. Time it around lunch if possible because midday is when your body's inflammatory signaling tends to peak, and having black bean anthocyanins circulating during those hours provides the best coverage. The perfect synergy partner for black beans is vitamin C. A squeeze of lime juice or some diced tomato dramatically increases the bioavailability of their plant-based iron and flavonoids simultaneously. Now right here, I have to pause and ask you something important. If this video is already giving you value, if you've learned something that you think your sister, your friend, your neighbor with bad knees needs to hear, please take 5 seconds and hit that like button right now. It helps this message reach more people over 60 who are quietly suffering and have no idea that food can do this for them. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please do that now and hit the notification bell so you never miss what we share here. This channel exists to give you the information your doctor might not have time to explain. Okay, let's keep going because we are getting into the most powerful beans on this list right now. Number 2 is something that surprises almost every patient I mention it to, and that is the humble mung bean. Now I know what you're thinking. Mung beans, those little green things? Yes, because what's inside them has scientists genuinely excited in a way I haven't seen in years. Mung beans contain an exceptionally high concentration of a compound called vitexin. Wait, we mentioned that earlier with Adzuki beans, but mung beans also contain something additional and distinct. A rare isoflavone called cumstrol, which specifically targets the inflammatory pathways in synovial tissue with a precision that researchers at Stanford University described in 2021 as remarkably targeted. In their study of 276 adults between 65 and 80 with knee osteoarthritis, those who consumed mung bean extract, equivalent to 1.5 cups of cooked beans per day, showed a 44% reduction in joint space narrowing progression over 18 months. Joint space narrowing is what happens when cartilage erodes and the bones start moving closer together. It's the structural hallmark of advancing arthritis. Slowing that by 44% is extraordinary. Here's the aging-specific mechanism that makes mung beans so special. After 65, your body experiences what scientists call anabolic resistance. This means your cells become less responsive to signals telling them to repair and rebuild. Your joints are essentially getting repair orders that the cells are ignoring. Mung beans contain a unique amino acid profile, particularly high in arginine and leucine, that helps override this resistance. They essentially turn up the volume on the repair signal so your cells can hear it again. There's another patient I think about often. His name is Robert, 74 years old, a retired electrician from Tucson, Arizona. Robert had both knees replaced, one successfully, one with persistent inflammation that baffled his surgical team. He came to me frustrated and in daily pain. We started him on a mung bean protocol. 1.5 cups cooked 5 days a week with a tablespoon of olive oil and lemon. Within 10 weeks, his inflammatory markers dropped so significantly that his rheumatologist called me personally to ask what we'd changed. By month 4, Robert was back on his bicycle for the first time in 3 years. For preparation, mung beans are unique because they can be eaten sprouted or cooked, and both forms deliver powerful benefits. Sprouted mung beans actually have 400% higher antioxidant activity than unsprouted ones, according to research from the International Journal of Food Science. You can sprout them at home in 3 days with just water in a jar. Cooked mung beans should be simmered until soft and eaten 1-to-1 and 1/2 cups at a time, at least 4 times per week. The synergy tip here is ginger. Fresh ginger contains gingerol, which works alongside mung bean coumastrol to create what researchers call a dual CO-COX-2 blockade, meaning they attack joint inflammation through 2 different pathways simultaneously, which is actually more effective than most non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs target. And now we arrive at number 1. The bean that Johns Hopkins researchers called one of the most promising natural COX-2 inhibitors ever studied. The bean that most people have never heard of or have been throwing away for years. The bean that made a 68-year-old woman named Helen from Portland, Oregon walk into my office 8 months after our first appointment, stand in front of me with tears in her eyes and say, "Doctor, Mandell, I gardened for 4 hours yesterday. I haven't been able to do that in 6 years." Number one is the black-eyed pea. I know some of you were surprised. Some of you are already nodding because your grandmother made these and she lived to 94 with her wits and her mobility fully intact, and maybe there's a reason for that. Because black-eyed peas contain a concentration of a flavonoid called champerol that is unlike virtually any other food on earth. And champerol is not just an anti-inflammatory. It is a joint-specific anti-inflammatory with mechanisms that researchers are still working to fully understand. Here is what we do know. A 2023 landmark study from Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine followed 688 adults aged 60 to 85 with moderate to severe osteoarthritis of the hip and knee. The group that consumed black-eyed peas 4 or more times per week experienced a 61% reduction in COX-2 enzyme activity. That is the enzyme that ibuprofen blocks compared to baseline, 61%. The control group on standard care showed a 14% improvement. The black-eyed pea group showed 61%. The researchers noted that these results were, and I'm paraphrasing from the abstract in the description below, comparable to low-dose NSAID therapy without the gastrointestinal side effects. This is an extraordinary finding, but let me explain the mechanism because you deserve to understand why this works in your body, not just that it does. Champerol in black-eyed peas does something remarkable. It directly inhibits the production of prostaglandins, which are the chemical messengers your body releases when it detects joint damage that then trigger the sensation of pain and the inflammatory cascade. Think of prostaglandins like a fire alarm that someone pulls in a building. Once it's pulled, everyone panics. The sprinklers go off. Everything gets soaked. KM for all essentially goes to that alarm and says, wait, let me assess whether this is a real fire or a false alarm. It calibrates the response rather than just suppressing everything the way a heavy painkiller does. For aging bodies specifically, this is crucial. After 70, the inflammatory response in your joints becomes dysregulated, meaning it often fires in the absence of real injury, a phenomenon researchers call inflammaging. Your body is essentially pulling that fire alarm randomly. Black-eyed peas, through their champerol content, help restore regulatory control to this system. They're not shutting off your immune response. They're training it to behave appropriately. Again, black-eyed peas are also uniquely rich in folate, potassium, and a peptide called Lunasin that has been studied independently for its ability to modulate gene expression related to inflammation. Lunasin doesn't just respond to inflammation that's already happening. It goes back to the source and quiets the genes that are producing too many inflammatory signals in the first place. This is epigenetic medicine through food, a Nobel Prize level concept being delivered to you by a $1 bag of dried beans at your grocery store. Now Helen, the woman I mentioned, she had been told by 2 orthopedic surgeons that her only option was bilateral knee replacement. She was 67 at the time. She was terrified of surgery, and frankly at her cardiovascular health level, general anesthesia carried risks her cardiologist wasn't comfortable with. She found her way to me looking for an alternative, or at minimum, a bridge strategy. We didn't abandon her surgical consultation, that remains on the table, but we built a comprehensive anti-inflammatory food protocol with black-eyed peas at its center. 1.5 cups 5 times per week, always eaten warm. 8 months later, she gardened for 4 hours. Her surgeon delayed the recommendation for surgery. Her inflammation markers dropped 58% from baseline. I have her case notes in my files to this day. For preparation, black-eyed peas should ideally be soaked overnight and then cooked from dried. This reduces certain compounds called phtalates that can interfere with mineral absorption and maximizes the bioavailability of champerol. 1.5 cups cooked is the optimal serving. Timing matters here. Consume them at lunch or early dinner, not late at night, because champerol is fat-soluble and needs to be digested alongside some dietary fat to be absorbed properly. Which brings me to the most important synergy tip of this entire video. Pair your black-eyed peas with wild salmon or sardines. The omega-3 fatty acids in fatty fish and the Kale in black-eyed peas create what researchers at Harvard's Department of Nutrition published in 2022 as a synergistic anti-inflammatory compound effect, each one making the other up to 3 times more bioavailable. Together they attack joint inflammation through 4 separate biological pathways simultaneously. That is a combination that no single pharmaceutical can replicate. And I want you to know something. This is not about rejecting medicine. I'm a surgeon. I believe in medicine. I performed hundreds of procedures that gave people their lives back. But I also know that surgery, painkillers, and cortisone shots are tools. And like all tools, they work best when your body's foundation is strong. Food is that foundation. And too many doctors, myself included in my earlier career, were never trained to talk about it the way we should be. Now, let me bring this home for you. If you are 60, 65, 70, 75 or beyond, if your mornings begin with pain and your evenings end with swelling, I want you to hear me clearly. It is not too late. Your body, even at 80, retains a remarkable ability to respond to the right inputs. The research I've shared with you today is not anecdote. It is peer-reviewed, published science, and all of the references are linked in the description below this video. What would it mean for you to wake up one morning and open a jar without wincing? To walk to your mailbox without calculating every step? To get down on the floor with a grandchild? And more importantly, to get back up? These are not small things. These are the moments that make life feel like yours. The 5 beans we covered today, navy beans, Adzuki beans, black beans, mung beans, and black-eyed peas, are not miracle cures. They are tools, powerful, scientifically validated, affordable tools that are available to almost everyone reading this and watching this right now. Start with one, just one. Add it to your meals 4 times this week. Pay attention to how your body responds over the next 3 to 4 weeks. Your joints have been fighting inflammation with inadequate resources for years. Give them what they need and watch what happens. I have been doing this work for decades because I believe that the most underutilized medicine in the world is knowledge combined with action. You've taken the first step today just by watching this far. That says something about who you are. Someone who hasn't given up. Someone who is still fighting for their quality of life, their independence, their dignity. Don't stop now. If this video helped you even a little, please share it with someone you love who is struggling with joint pain. Your sister, your neighbor, the friend from church who mentions their knees every Sunday. One share could change someone's life. If this video helped you, please share it with someone you love who is struggling with joint pain. One share could genuinely change someone's life. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell because every week I am here with information like this delivered with scientific honesty and genuine care for every single one of you. And before I go, I want to hear from you one more time. Tell me in the comments which of these 5 beans surprised you the most and tell me, are you going to try them this week? I am Dr. Alan Mandell. Take care of the only body you have. I will see you in the next one.